Okay, part of what JobSeeker Pro is here to do is to help protect you in your career. And so I wanted to come up with a resource that would help you understand some of the things that I've observed in my career of almost 30 years, things that I've encountered, things that I've also researched. And so I compiled the 7 predictors of job loss risk. This is also available in a downloadable guide at jobseeker.pro/free. And also you can get it if you attend my JobSeeker Pro Fast Start training, my webinar, which is over at jobseeker.pro/fast. Meanwhile, let's dive right into the 7 predictors of job loss risk. We want to understand the signals that are out there because there's usually some signs. Usually, in hindsight, we can see, yeah, there were some signs. So, predictor number one is your personal performance, your attainment on the job, your achievement, or your attendance on the job has decreased. So this one is the one that's kind of a little bit more in your control, which is that your performance or things about your work have not been maybe what they used to be, or maybe they haven't been meeting expectations. So that's predictor number one. This can manifest in various ways, and I'll just let your creativity run wild here. But some thoughts are, missed deadlines, maybe your errors at work have increased a lot over a long period of time. You're getting negative feedback from supervisors or colleagues. These are all signals, and we want to really listen to those signals because, I think most people, frankly, don't want to have a bad job performance anyway. They want to have a good job performance. And so these are things that we want to self correct before they have to even become a predictor of job loss risk. If you're going to work through, an extended illness, that also can be a type of risk. I got COVID really bad, and I was let go 2 days after I got back from the hospital. I was in the hospital for 6 days, actually. And I know that's a really ugly story, but extended illnesses, even though they won't tie your departure to that because they want to protect themselves, but those are things as well. So we want to try to show up and be present as much as possible, although with illness, it's hard to really control that, of course. But there are a lot on this slide that you can control. So let's focus on those primarily. But I did want to make you aware of the healthcare one. Sadly, people don't always do the right thing, including in my own personal career. I've lost my job 3 times. So I do really sympathize with this topic for sure. Predictor number two out of the 7 signals, the company that you work for has missed 2 quarterly earnings in a row. So the company has missed their number 2 quarters in a row. Okay. Generally, 1 quarter won't have layoffs, but 2 quarters in a row definitely can. Also, this is compounded if you start to see that they're having budget cuts or hiring freezes. Those are also sometimes a signal. Those two together certainly are signals as well. When companies face financial difficulties, they often do implement budget cuts or hiring freezes. And these measures can signal potential job losses through layoffs or restructurings, which is a fancy word for layoffs, too, honestly. A company undergoing frequent restructuring or downsizing may signal potential job loss risk. Stay vigilant if your organization is consistently making those types of changes to the structure, to the plans, those types of things. There's a lot of tumultuousness built into the personality of your company, the leadership, those type of things. That if you start mixing that tumultuousness and that constant change with them missing quarterly earnings a couple quarters, that's a pretty strong predictor that probably some people will be affected by layoffs. Predictor number 3 out of 7, you experience personally a sudden reduction in your workload. Maybe that's formal, maybe that's informal. You can experience a reduction in your responsibilities or a reduction in your work hours, depending on the type of job that you have. So these are all signs. A reduction in work hours or work responsibility could indicate financial challenges for the company. So just be aware of, these signs can be pretty important. Also, if your company is increasingly relying on temporary or contract workers instead of full-time employees, this can signal a move toward outsourcing or downsizing. And this trend may put your job at risk as well. Oftentimes, you will have a sense that they're taking a lot of workloads overseas or they're using contract help more and more. And so, if your position, especially if your position can be easily filled, if it's very repetitive work, if it's not really thought work, detailed or creative work, or very scientific type work, then it might be easier to replace overseas or with contract help, that kind of thing. So that may be a predictor as well. So check this slide out. Think about this. Feel free to take a screenshot. Predictor number 4 out of 7. You notice a market increase in micromanagement. This certainly happened to me. An inspection of your work by your manager. I was very much bullied in 2016, right before my first job layoff. And I was just naively trusting my manager and everything that he said. And in fact, he was not worthy of that trust, unfortunately. So I think keep an eye on this one for sure. If you start to see an increase, this certainly for me was a predictor of job loss. A recent increase in inspection of your work, micromanagement. Also, in my case, there was no listening. There was no context that I was able to provide that would at all be listened to. And frankly, I was working tirelessly and that was ignored as well. So I was being micromanaged in a pretty weird way because I really was working harder than anybody else. It was really a weird situation, but you're going to have those. You're going to have toxic bosses in your career from time to time. I'm really sorry to say, but all of those types of things can be signs of job loss risk. So a bad boss or these types of signals are really important to keep an eye out for. Other manifestations of this is that you may receive a formal sounding kind of email. So what they'll do is before they put you on a real formal, real HR performance improvement plan, they will often put you on more of an email plan where it's more of an email warning. That's kind of what I got. I never even got on a formal performance improvement plan before I lost my job in 2016. So check this out. These are really good signs, especially when they're mixed with other signs. Predictor number 5 out of 7, if your manager who hired you has left the organization and the new manager doesn't know you and starts to hire people from their prior workplaces. Now, you don't have to have all of these conditions. I had the first part of this. The manager who hired had a stroke, and the person who took over for him didn't know me. And this person didn't appreciate my creativity and the fact that I was trying to do certain things to improve the business at all. And this individual didn't have the context that the other manager actually hired me for that, literally hired me for that. So when you lose your manager, that can be a bad situation for sure. You know, the manager who hired you does tend to have a certain amount of loyalty and they understand the reasons why you were selected, right? When a new manager comes in, it's almost like a job reset. Like we don't know what we're going to get, right? So we want to try to survive those times and hopefully you'll just be a hero to that new manager. So be positive and be happy and be helpful and hopefully it'll work out. But it can be a predictor of job loss risk. It was for me as well as this does happen to other people for sure. And some individuals who take over a leadership role tend to replace people as well, by the way. And I know you know this, but I'll just remind you for the slide that sometimes people who come in to a leadership role tend to bring in people that they've worked with before. It's that buddy system. It's people that they're comfortable with. It's not really all bad, to be honest, that they do that, but it could affect you and me in terms of our employment. So we want to kind of keep an eye on that if we start to see that behavior. And number 6 out of 7, if you're getting confusing, unusual, or negative outlook signals from your very senior leadership, so you're getting this cryptic language or this negative outlook or negative future forecasting and those kinds of comments in company meetings or emails, those can be a really bad sign as well. And it's just something that you want to keep an eye on. I'm not trying to paint doom and gloom with it. So I'm trying to give you tools to protect you. That's really one of my seriously critical missions because I've been through 3 job losses and I did do research. This isn't just my personal experiences. I did research as well to come up with this. But if you're getting a sudden shift in language from the CEO or others, this could signal anything from a sale of the company to restructuring or carving off part of the business or a layoff or all kinds of things. So keep an eye on number 6 for sure. It's really important. This is a stronger predictor if this language includes negative commentary about the company's outlook as well. So keep an eye, especially when it compounds with that. So I hope that helps. And then the last one is really very common. And some of you have been through this, I know, but when your company was acquired by a private equity firm, it's literally one of the things they do is they do layoffs. When I worked at Riverbed back from 2012 through 2015, and I survived 13 layoffs. I mean, it was brutal. I was really walking around carrying, honestly, PTSD. It was against my will, but I had to let my whole team go in one day. That's what private equity does is they come in and they force those types of layoffs and restructurings. It's a terrible thing. The similar behavior can happen if you're bought by your competitor as well. They just remove duplication is essentially what that is. It is the norm, unfortunately, for private equity and venture capital firms to force the organization into layoffs. I'm still shocked that when I was at Riverbed that I went through 13 of them. I mean, that's unbelievable. Similarly, when a competitor acquires an organization, a layoff can be a common near-term likelihood as well. And so just keep an eye on these top 7. And again, if you need this downloadable, I will definitely have that over at jobseeker.pro/free by the time you see this. Okay. So we'll have that for you. Conclusion and final thoughts. Unfortunately, we can't have the naivety that maybe our grandfathers and our grandmothers had about workplaces where you could work someplace for 28 years. I mean, I hope that happens for you. The reality is that they're not treating us anymore like much more than a spreadsheet line item. And so that's really what happens. We really want to know the signals to make sure that we're safe for us and for our families. A layoff can happen at any time. So having a job seeker strategy ready to go is a smart move for career protection. And by the way, with my program, it is a lifetime program. If you ever wanted to check that out, you can do that. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you one tip that's not on the slides, but it's one that I really talk about a lot in some of my different posts. And that is the best time to prepare for a jobs layoff or one of these types of situations is when you have a job, right? So have your resume up to date at all times, or have a cover letter, have examples of your work. From time to time, send samples of your work home, projects you completed, send that home. If you get a compliment from a customer or a boss or something like that in the email, send that home. And then later, when you're on a job search, we can compile those into perhaps nice slides. And I have example. By the way, feel free to hit me up. I'll send you my exact examples of stuff that I've done with this. My email is brian@jobseeker.pro. But anyway, I hope this helps. Go check out my free Fast Start webinar. It's a training. It is free. You can check that out at jobseeker.pro/fast. That's jobseeker.pro/fast. Hope you have a great day.